Today we are discussing Young Justice Outsiders, the second half of Season 3, and probably the season as a whole in some regard. I'm David C. Robertson. This is my co-host Jason Goss.
Hello.
And you are listening to DC On Screen, the podcast that covers the DC Comics multiverse on film and television, gives honest opinions on projects upcoming and past, and believes that every version of a property is valid, even if we really don't want it to be. If it's been released, it is fair game, so beware of spoilers, and welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hey, man. Well, we're finally getting around to our Young Justice Outsiders review, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Good lord.
Yeah.
It's my fault.
We're not
It took
too
me a
far
minute
behind.
to...
Yeah.
it took me a minute
to finish it up, but
all right, so I have the feeling maybe you should start this out. Some good general thoughts, I guess.
is that because I'm going to think it was pretty satisfying and you're not?
I think you will think it is more satisfying than I do.
Oh, well, that's fair too. I did think it was pretty satisfying. It was a good season of Young Justice.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than I was pretty satisfied. So I'm curious. What were your qualms?
I don't want to come right out of the gate like bitching it out or anything, because it was really cool to have it back, for one thing. It's not every day that you get a canceled show back.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's more common these days, but...
Also one of that quality in that circumstance that's very rare.
Mm-hmm. I liked that they went the extra mile with the gore and the violence. Felt like higher stakes in some ways. But I do think that at this juncture, this critical juncture in Young Justice, my primary issue is going to be that they keep introducing young superheroes, but not doing anything with them because reasons. Like, they keep kind of going, okay, well, let's devote way too much time to Jason Black Lightning. Let's devote... that storyline didn't even have to be there, except to give Jefferson a feeling that he'd been betrayed. You could have had Jace be a surrogate mother for the kids and be there in that capacity without, devoting episodes to her and Black Lightning.
They used Black Lightning, Jesus. Jefferson Pierce. That feels better.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
They used Pierce, I thought pretty well throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
So that turn, to me, was pretty well rewarded.
It was well rewarded, but I mean, at what cost? Like, they keep introducing all these new characters, these new younger characters. And part of the idea of this thing is Young Justice. Like, yeah, I want to revisit the old people from the first season and see where they're at. But I also want to meet Tim, properly. I want to see Cassie. I don't want to hint at the fact that Tim and Stephanie had a relationship, and then Tim and Cassie had a relationship, and none of it went well. I want to see what's going on with that. I love Tim. I love Stephanie. I love Cassie. I want to see that storyline play out. I love Cassandra Cain, and we got just a glimpse of Orphan here. I would have loved to have seen, Batman Incorporated in one episode. Give us an episode of that where we're seeing how they are all individually dealing with Batman manipulating, pulling strings behind the scenes, as he was this season. Mm-hmm. And they were clearly all in on it. So at the end of
Batman
the season, yeah, when at the end of the season, when everyone's looking at Batman Inc. and going dude, what the hell, you guys all knew? And they all look kind of sad and ashamed. I wanted that to mean something to me. You see what I'm saying?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, I get that you wanted more payoff on that, but at the same time, this is a show that has done payoff on characters that you could never have expected this much love for.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it by... This is one of the reasons I love Young Justice. Is you're gonna care about Guardian, Aqualad, Beast Boy, characters that unless you're really into the comics, you've never really gotten any chance to come across or love or give a goddamn about.
I agree, but at the same time, this season I saw a lot of, and it may have been a problem with the show starting in season 2, for real, because this season, they did a time jump again, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to spend half a season trying to figure out who the hell that person is supposed to be. because they they made him look different, and I'm like, well, I don't remember that one episode that guy was in, and and I know it's not just a problem for me because my sister-in-law has been watching Young Justice and like texting me and going like, wait, who is this guy they're talking to on I'm like, let me look that up. Oh, okay, that was Snapper. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of the thing is like you can't have it both ways. Like on the one hand, you get this thorough refashioning / investment in all of the DC properties, and I mean it is super thorough. It's a lot of fun. The show takes a lot of chances, really invest in characters. It's worth it, but you do have to keep up. Like I think that's on us as viewers to actually keep up and pay attention. I don't want to.
It is to some degree.
I don't want to get onto the show for like, oh, who's that they mentioned so and so. Like in certain aspects that would, all right. And if you're watching like Lost or something, you'd be like, you would be super thrilled, I guess, by the detective aspect of, oh my God, who was that I saw just for 2 seconds in this one shot? And here, like it shouldn't be on the showmakers that we're not keeping up. It's a really thorough take on the properties. Like that's up to us.
See, now I think that's where we disagree. I don't think it is a thorough take. I think it's a slap shot, like let's throw as much as we can at the wall and excite people by excite comic book fans by having them go, oh hey, there's Orphan, there's friggin' whoever. But like, I don't sorry, I got choked. But I want the show to make sense cohesively, and as much as I think it's cool,
it does make sense cohesively, and the characters tie together. Like I don't know where your disconnect is happening, where you're worried about a character being thrown in here and there, and the character's not being given respect. I don't know where that's happening.
I'm not saying respect. I'm saying like they're trying to pay off certain things. Like, oh, look at, like I said, like, oh, look how ashamed they are over at Batman Inc. Well, that means nothing to me. Or like, there's a bit where like someone's getting on to Tim for the way he treats women or something. And I'm like, we didn't even see him treat them badly. Like they're referencing relationships that we haven't seen. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not like completely shitting on the show. I'm just saying like, there are certain things here that are like, there are opportunities missed because we're spending too much time with freaking, 80s Frank Welker characters, which is essentially what Fred Bug is. I mean, he might as well be freaking Glomer from Punky Brewster or some shit, or Slimer. He's just catchphrases.
Yeah, because he's learning the language.
He's there to be cutesy and annoying, and it's a waste. It just is. If you enjoy him, I'm so glad for you. It's a waste to me. It's a waste, and I like where Brian wound up. Mm-hmm. I really do. I'm interested to see where he goes in season 4, being the king and being vengeful as hell and everything now. But for the majority of the season, he was treated like a catchphrase joke. Like he was just running around going, "Oh, excuse me." Shut up. It was awful.
Everyone you're picking right now is English is their second language.
Yeah, that's fine, but it could. What I'm saying though is
that's more realistic.
You're making it out like I'm like making fun of people whose language.
No, I'm not. I'm not making it out in any way. I'm pointing out that the people that you're saying are operating by catchphrase or by by catchphrase are people whose language is limited in this tongue. Fred Bug's language is limited by that, and they make it a point to point out that he should be using pronouns more. And
but I've known a lot of people
clearly
who
using the language in a way that points out that his articles are weird.
Yeah, and that's fine, but, they're doing that classic 80s and 90s thing where the person who doesn't speak English operates in catchphrases and sounds silly and is always the exasperated person at the butt of the joke. It just doesn't wash for me.
It didn't work for me that way at all. Like, that didn't register to me as a point of contention, we'll call it. Like, that for me was like, okay, that's how they operate, and I moved on. Mm-hmm. That wasn't a problem for me.
Well, it's just one of these things that, like, and I know Greg Weisman started out writing in the 80s and 90s. I mean, he wrote an episode of Jim and the Holograms, for God's sake. Those cartoons need to stay in the past. Like,
this wasn't a version of cartoons from the past for me.
Just like Hello Megan was, oh my God, really? Like,
yeah, Hello Megan was an homage, though, but it made sense for her character in that she learned our culture from that.
And that was great. That part of it was great. That explanation.
Like, in the same sense that Jackie Chan learned English by listening to country music.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird and kind of strange, but it worked for him.
Yeah, I can't. Like, this, I would much rather spend time with other young heroes, because it is Young Justice. Like, I'm not gonna flip on that. And you know what's weird is, like, we had so much time with those original characters in season 1, and we really got to see how they worked. And then season 2 takes place, what, 5 years later? Is that right?
Yeah. No, there's a time jump between all of these seasons. I think that's the point, though, is you do spend time with certain characters, and then you see others come up.
Right. And that's great. But now it's kind of coming to a point where it's like they're leaving so much unsaid that it's like, it's almost giving me a mystery that I feel like they're never going to actually solve.
Why?
Because they deviate enough from comics that I'm still going, well, wait, what exactly happened here?
Yeah, but you can't worry about deviation from comics. That's an entirely different problem.
Well, the problem is they're deviating enough that I can't trust that what happened in the comics is what happened on the show.
You shouldn't trust that those two things are the same.
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah. Just watch the show.
Just watch the show and not wonder what happened to the character that I cared about?
No, just watch the show and not worry about when they leave the character behind for 2 seasons. Because, like, when did you see Red Tornado this season? It was a huge part of season 1.
Yeah.
But or Shazam, again, another huge part of season 1. They're going to use a character as long as they're telling that part of the story, but for 80 years of comics and for however many fucking characters there are at this point, hundreds, they choose a snapshot of that and just tell that story.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, you know, Barbara being crippled. I'm talking about, you know, Jason Todd being hinted at, but, you know, we mentioned Jason once, and then we saw some, you know, allusion to what might be happening with Jason being alive, but we don't really get any answers. You know, like, it's just stuff like that. It's like Tim and
you
Cassandra.
You don't have to have all the answers on that.
You don't.
Like, they literally mentioned spoiler in the
to.
last episode. I don't think that she's been around that long. Hell, she's not even in Batcave just for fun. But, I mean, she's name-checked. Spoilers there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just another character in the canon that we're talking about. Like,
well, yeah, but do you not feel like in a show called Young Justice, Tim Drake, spoiler, you know, Wonder Girl, all these characters shouldn't be a little more on the front lines in terms of storytelling? Like, should we not be seeing more of them and getting more of the relationships between them and the old guard who are now their mentors?
No, not at all. Because season 1 was entirely that. Season 2 was them moving on from that. And season 3 is now an entirely new cast of people who, by the way, were the young versions of this. Like, the culmination of season 3 is that we're going to move the Justice League into some new kind of more exposed era of crime fighting. And the youth of that season are the ones who move it forward. And also, it's not been... I don't necessarily need any version of Young Justice League to do it. They've been using the youth of these characters the entirety of the show. Like, Garfield alone drove this season for a lot of the season.
Yeah, and that was pretty good.
And, I mean, the Markovs, if you didn't like them, that's one thing, but their journey... And, by the way, this is taking into account one of the Teen Titans' most famous storylines is the betrayal of the Markov Deathstroke situation. But and
I like the twist too. I like that it was eventually it petered out to Brianne doing it instead of Tara.
Yeah. Tara had a far more rewarding payoff in this one than she did in the comics.
And thankfully she wasn't sleeping with a Slade this time.
Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice.
That's always a thing I could just do without. Like,
yeah. Little less teen rape.
And I was a little, like...
That's always a good thing.
I was a little concerned that, being... the first part of the season played out was like, we are so in your face, and there's so much more violence and death, and I'm like, oh, shit. I was a little worried when they started bringing in Markovs and stuff. I was like, oh man, they're just gonna full out do it, aren't they? They're just gonna go full Terra and Deathstroke. And then they didn't, and that was pleasing.
Well, the only reason I was worried was because I've literally read that story before. I've been told that story. I don't necessarily need to see it done again. This version was, another version. So that was actually really nice. And I got to see Terra's story as it progressed. But between like Terra, Beast Boy, Violet, all at this point, like the characters of season 1 and 2, like Artemis and Robin, or now Nightwing or Superboy or any of that, like they've moved forward 10 years from where we started the show. They've progressed. Like one of my favorite moments of this season is later when it's Nightwing talking to Batman, and he kind of says, I can't believe this many people showed up, and Batman says to him, you command more respect than you know.
Yeah, I did like that a lot.
That is a super powerful moment.
Yeah, I don't mean to be completely negative here, because there was a lot in this season I really liked. Like, I love that Jefferson Pierce was like screaming at everybody and telling everybody like, you're a sack of shit. Like,
dude, you know how rare this, I know how rare that is, that they just have an episode where the climax of that episode is one character just saying, bullshit.
Yeah.
Just, I swear, for like 5 straight minutes of animated television, just goes on about, you've been working with so-and-so, and this is that, and also this is that, and popcorn equals toasters, and fuck you all.
Yeah, it's the scene that I always wanted to see in Arrow.
Yes. It was really rewarding because of exactly that. Like, you spend so much time just sitting there suspending disbelief, and for this one character to sit there and go, no, fuck all that. That was really cool.
And here was my favorite part about that. Batman didn't say shit.
Nope.
Like, he knew it. He knew that Jefferson was right. He's like,
oh, yeah. No, the entire time, I swear, Batman was just like, yep, he's got me.
Yep. And I've actually seen people online. I've seen a lot of people complain that Batman did not, just basically say, screw you, the mission comes first, or some variation.
No, fuck that. This season's Batman makes the best decision he thinks is possible. In the course of it is called out by Jefferson Pierce, who's absolutely right. This is bullshit. And then in the course of that, makes corrections to his own character, tells Nightwing he's doing a good job, and then tells Jefferson Pierce, we're going to do this your way, because it's the right decision. Like, Batman actually learns a fucking lesson for once. That's a giant check mark in the pro column of this fucking show. Why is that a complaint?
And look, it comes down to, like, it's a complaint because people think that Batman should always just be like, no, I'm right, and Batman should always be right.
No, I love that Batman is right almost all of the time, but when he's wrong, and you can pay that off and make it work over the course of an entire season of something, fuck yeah.
And to me, it boils down to, basically, remember in Justice League Doom, I think it was Justice League Doom, when basically the League wants to get rid of Batman because he had all these contingency plans for taking them all out. And he said this was my way of having a plan for if the Justice League went sour. He decides to leave because they're too stupid to realize that, by God, someone needs to have that. And Superman goes, just out of curiosity, what was your plan for if you went rogue? And he says, the Justice League.
Yeah.
Batman knows he's not, beyond reproach. This dude is like, this is why having a Robin, having a Batgirl, having a Nightwing, all these people are so important. Superman, for God's sake. Well, I mean, having these youthful, optimistic sidekicks is incredibly important. This is Bruce's family. These are the people who are going to ground him. And then on a larger scale, you have Superman, like, who's, the yin to his yang, man. He's going to be like, hey, you're better than this, Bruce. And it was great that it wasn't Superman this time. It was great that it was Black Lightning this time.
Yeah.
Bruce needs that, because if you don't have that, if you don't have Lucius Fox telling him, we never do this again or I'm out,
right.
You're going to have Bruce just like creating a police state. We've seen it plenty of times in alternate realities. We've seen it happen over and over again. We've seen him on the line of doing such things. You cannot just invade other people's privacy. You can't just, lie to everyone you claim to care about for the mission. The mission will kill you, Bruce. He needs that. He needs the grounding. I stand by that, and I really dug where his character went this season.
Yeah. And they started on the normal mark we see, like the Bat God. He started being nigh irreproachable. And we've seen through, I guess, the whelming of Dick Grayson that he is reproachable.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson alone is one of the highlights of this show. Like seeing him go from, in season 1, he looks younger. They even draw him so that he looks at this point like, I don't know, like if you just change costumes, he could be Batman for a second. He grown, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And I don't mind, I would not have minded and do not mind seeing those original Young Justice characters and seeing them, and that we do have that, them having grown and
adapted.
Yeah, becoming the mentors.
Yeah.
Shit. I mean,
Artemis is one of the, Artemis is maybe the best part of the show in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Seeing her go from, like in season 1 and 2, just being a betrayed daughter to becoming a leader in this team is that is some deep shit.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I felt like we needed more time with Aqualad or Aquaman, whatever you want to call him this season.
Yeah.
I liked his character a lot.
No, they developed the character of Aqualad in ways that I've never seen before.
I almost feel like we were robbed a little bit of seeing like his transformation into Aquaman. We just kind of come back and he's there, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes and no, but it's one of the more inspiring parts of the show. Like the newer generation, which in terms of the show is only about 3 years behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Like the newer generation of young powerful folk come along, and you mentor them for a couple of years, and then suddenly they're the ones making decisions that suddenly, according to the dictates of the season, suddenly you're making, what do I want to call it? Corrupted decisions, maybe. Compromised decisions. Like you're playing the same game, but you're using your enemy's tactics, as Jefferson points out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to the youth to point out that that's not how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
I love that about the show, is they always bring in a new crop of people and say, hey, by the way, love that you loved last season. We're going to do these people now.
Yeah, I do like that, but I would like to see a little more follow through, is what I'm saying. I think mostly is like we got a little bit of we were really teased with, hey, we're going to have Static and we're going to have him in a mentorship or protege role with Black Lightning. We didn't really get a lot of that. And by the end of the season, I got to be honest, I don't know what the hell happened to Static.
Static loses. Yeah. There's no traction on that character. Like that's a criticism you could definitely use against the show, is they lose track of people, but they also, their scope is so big, I think they're going to lose track of people, and I don't mind too much when they do.
I got to be honest, after last season, when we got so much on those Super Friends characters, we got like the updated Apache Chief and all.
Yeah,
like I would have loved to have seen where they went, and they brought in an El Dorado, which was kind of cool. Like,
yeah,
that was a little strange.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a character I didn't think we were going to get again ever. But I kind of, I enjoyed the character, but I kind of feel like, and that's the last we'll see him.
I feel like it might be. I mean, you did get to see what he's doing right now in the finale, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm. And
it really may be about it. I have, it's a way I've adapted to this show, is I appreciate what they're giving me, as far as like they're ranging in areas that I didn't think were possible.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when certain areas drop, they're usually giving me so much and exploring so much of the DC universe that when they forget certain parts of it, I kind of don't notice.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I sincerely, like, there's a point of overload, and
I will say this: I think it's a good thing, but I do understand how it can be frustrating for sure. I get that.
Yeah,
but on a like an episode to episode basis, when I'm watching it, I'm usually so enthralled by like, oh my god, I can't believe they're even doing this, that I'm way beyond. Like the idea that the light and the reach are like a global thing that we're worried about in the course of this thing, like the the fact that the extended Blue Beetle universe is a thing that we've explored at some point. Like, I can't believe we even got away with that.
Yeah, I do enjoy Jaime and the beetle, the scarab talking to him. That's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, something else I really like about this season. Everything with Luthor and Gordon Godfrey.
Mm-hmm.
That's just hilarious. It's like Godfrey is so willing to just turn on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, well, social media disagrees, Lex.
Yeah.
Like,
I really enjoyed in the last episode that it gets down to like Jefferson is in front of the UN saying, we have confidential files, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And Lex is just rolling on with it. And at some point, Superboy is like, no, seriously, check my blood. That bastard, that one over there. Yeah, he's a fucker.
Mm-hmm. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of like 3 seasons worth of stuff, him and McGann. I really enjoyed the conversation they had later, like where she turns over the ring and it's like, I have to get this back. Well, I hope not.
Yeah.
That was I don't know. I have enjoyed their relationship for 3 seasons, and I enjoyed how it's kind of developed this season.
Yeah, I was good with that. It did feel like it kind of went away there in the middle, but I was glad to see a progression / resolution of it. I am infinitely frustrated with Artemis and Will. Just be together, damn you. But that Wally episode was just heartbreaking.
It was rough. That was
oh my gosh,
the literal tearjerker.
And now that we've gotten that episode and that she's like on the path to mending,
yeah,
and I assume in season 4 she will actually get with Will. It seems like the perfect time for Wally to come back.
In the course of this show, we're gonna flash forward like 5 years.
Maybe
they're gonna have a toddler by the time we're done.
But I feel like the minute they actually get comfortable enough to actually get together, I think that's when Wally will make his triumphant return.
Possibly. You think they're gonna go all rebirth on it?
They could go rebirth on it. He could have gone into the future. He might be with the Legionnaires. We did see that Legion ring at the end.
All right, so that's the big thing about next season is I'm excited because I genuinely think it's going to be Young Justice, Legionnaires, or the Legion or something. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be very much focused on that, and it would completely fit if they just decided to fuck off on this time entirely and go 1,000 years in the future.
Oh, I hope not. I hope they don't just do that.
It would really make a lot of sense. Like, first of all, they've never cared that they were fucking off and going forward a few years. Mm-hmm. Second, you have to admit, Jefferson's speech about how they should run the Justice League is pretty on point.
Yeah,
like that's really a great version of how the Justice League should be run. And if they just left it there, I mean, that could work for a long time.
It could. Like, I guess they could, from a storytelling standpoint, pretty satisfactorily. I don't know if that's a word.
I'll back you.
Cool. Thanks. First time this episode. No, in a satisfactory fashion, I think they could jump ahead into the 30th century? Is that right? I don't even remember.
I think so.
And have the Legion of Superheroes learning from the history files they have, and us picking up like time jumped like segments of the rest of those characters' lives.
Right.
The ones that we know. Like, we could see like news files and flashbacks and stuff. about what happened with everybody. But there is a whole lot. I don't think they'll do that because there is a whole lot that they've left open, like little threads and stuff. And I don't know if those things are just like little nods going like, oh yeah, Jason's alive.
Yeah.
Or, whatever. It's just, there's a whole lot they could do. A lot of places they could go. And I hope they do most of those things.
There are a lot of places. I think where we're going to go next season, like it would make sense if they jumped 1,000 years in the future. But, when you think about it, it's a Legionnaire popping backwards in time to some happy moment where the League was in a good spot. Mm-hmm. And then essentially Lobo pisses on that entire concept.
What the hell was that at the end with the little baby Lobo getting stomped?
I don't know. All right. So Lobo is a character whose origin story is that he extinguished everyone that wasn't him of his entire race. Mm-hmm. So this fits for me. Another little baby Zarnian, and he just stomps on it and literally throws a lighter into the fluid of its remains. That works for me. I can work with that. Like, Lobo traditionally doesn't like there being other Lobos. Mm-hmm. Also, here's the only two things we can really know is like, A, they've, we're going to go A, B, C. A, they've already introduced Lobo. Mm-hmm. He's a known quantity in the Young Justice series. B, we're going to get more Lobo, because they wouldn't do that unless they were intending to give us more Lobo.
Yeah.
C, we're getting some Legionnaires. So I feel like we're going to get some Legionnaires versus Lobo situation going on, and I'm super into it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do this. Bring it on.
I mean, clearly the little baby Lobo was from the thumb. The thumb regenerated into another full Lobo.
Yeah. But
I don't know. It was just such a weird tangent to go on.
What's the word I want here? What's the Latin for self? I don't know. I feel like I'm losing it. Autogenocide or something like that.
I don't know.
There's got to be a word for self-genocide. Killing all of one's own race. That has to be a Latin phrase.
I think that's just genocide.
No, that's genocide. I thought was killing all of a race, not necessarily one's own race.
I thought genocide was just when you kill a whole bunch of people. Not necessarily
genocide
a specific
was when
race.
You kill all of a race. Yeah. Yeah, when you just kill all of a bunch of people, it's just called killing people.
Well, okay. The dictionary says the deliberate killing of a large group of people.
That is bullshit. Genocide is killing a race.
Especially those of a particular ethnic group or nation.
There you go.
Or nation.
Yeah. That still makes sense. Like, Geno being the beginning of, and side being to kill. So you kill all of the beginning of something, meaning you kill all of a race. Mm-hmm. Anything else is, I think at that point, the dictionary deciding that figurative, or what's the word? Literally and figuratively are the same thing. No, that's not right. Literally and something?
Yeah, it was literally and figuratively were the same thing.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Words change. It's annoying.
It's weird. I'm okay with some of them, and some of them infuriate me to my core. Mm-hmm. I never know which one's going to happen.
It all annoys me. But it's almost impossible to get away from it.
Oh, yeah. No, it's literally impossible.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. What did you... well, gosh, my brain just went bye-bye.
Welcome back, Dave.
Oh, are you saying this is how I usually am?
Oh, no. Normally you tune in at least long enough to record.
Yeah. That's what I want you to think.
Now, I've seen you in real life. That shit can get shaky.
Thanks, buddy.
I mean, to a lesser extent than myself.
Let me just write this down here. Get new friends. Yeah. Okay.
Note to self, be better.
That's what the medication's for. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Did you like that Superman said whelmed?
I did.
Yeah, my favorite quote of the whole thing is when they asked Dick, he's like, Dick, and he goes, whelmed, trot, and fill in the aster.
Yep.
That made me giggle. Like, yay, he said the thing. He said the thing that I like.
No, really tying the series together with a couple of weird phrases that they've... I got to give them credit. It's in that canon.
Now,
if I said I was whelmed right now, there's no other canon of fiction that you could pick from. You'd have to be like, yeah, that's from Young Justice.
Mm-hmm. I do want to point out, I do recognize my own hypocrisy in being annoyed with catchphrases, but being completely delighted by Dick and his whelmed Aster thing. Totally get it. If you're pissed at me, I understand. That was too clever to not enjoy.
Yeah.
It always has been.
That was a good little button.
And it never feels like a crutch to me. It often does with the others.
I don't agree with the others, but okay.
All right. You have anything else? How are you feeling about Granny Goodness here?
Oh, hated her. My favorite frame of the entire series was, I mean, this was one of the best versions of her that I've seen. I just hate her as a character, but it's one of the better versions I've seen. Is her being the head of Apple, or whatever they were doing there, and the payoff for her later is after Darkseid and Vandal are talking about the future birth. Which, by the way, Darkseid I felt like was underused for the season.
Oh, I think that's yet to come.
I think it is yet to come, and that has something to do with the whole Legionnaire Lobo thing. I'm sure, but like I think we're gonna end up liking Lobo by the end of the show. Just putting that out there. But,
I don't think there's anywhere to go with Lobo, honestly. But
I think he's gonna end up working alongside the rest of these guys. But we'll see.
He might. I'm always happy to see Lobo.
Yeah, anti-hero Lobo in particular.
Yeah, I'm so
Always
proud.
fun.
My wife was actually bummed out by the fact that there wasn't going to be a Lobo series.
I don't blame her.
She's like, wait, so when they cancel Krypton, they're not doing Lobo now? I'm like, that's right. Oh, man.
I get it. He's a cool character. But, yeah, Darkseid underused a little bit, at least for a show where in the opening intro, you have like the Omega symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his thumbprint is for sure on the series. I mean, Granny and Godfrey and all that, like that's very New Gods.
Mm-hmm.
Very Fourth World. But, one of my favorite Granny moments is just when they're doing this, like, and it's a weird thing that Young Justice does, especially this season, where they just do like this cheap animation style thing where they play music and like pan the camera over one piece of animation.
Mm-hmm.
But one of those pieces of animation was Granny just being tortured, and I thought, yeah, get her. Don't like her at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. How did you feel about Halo's storyline where she thought she was dying? Did you foresee that Jace was going to betray her and that was a whole ruse, or did you think that this version of Jace was actually still going to be good?
Oh no, I thought Jace was fucked, but that's the only reason I was slightly bored with that story, because I felt like they were telegraphing the punch far too long. Like, I think we all knew where that was going, and it took a little too long to get there.
I agree.
But
I wanted more Barda.
Violet's story in general, pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's pretty awesome. I mean, and not forgetting the fact that she died the fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my god. And then later when they do kind of half-ass kill her, I guess, they kill her ass. Like slit her throat in the middle of an animated episode, and you have to see several animated scenes of throat cut Violet. But shit. Keeps coming back.
Well, I don't know how much more I have to say about this season. I'm happy that we got it, but there's plenty that I could have done without and had something else there instead, like that whatever that domestic abuse very special episode was with Halo's friend. That just kind of came out of nowhere.
I honestly don't remember that one.
There's a reason, because it came out of nowhere.
It could be fair. It's taken weeks to watch this, and
that was my freaking Batman Inc. episode that you didn't do. Young Justice. I want to see Big Barda. I want to see Scott Free, man. I just finished Mr. Miracle. I'm jonesing.
Yeah, I get that. I wouldn't be surprised if you were gonna get there.
Maybe. I didn't necessarily need like any kind of big showdown with Darkseid. I never need that. Now, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, they've done it to where
I like a showdown, but I do
Superman
feel like
the
they
Animated
were
Series
telling me
too.
there was going to be an Omega presence at some point, and I didn't quite get to see it, but I think I will, so I'm not annoyed by it.
Yeah, I get it. I get the feeling that Darkseid needs to be a bigger presence. And I think we're going to get there, though, because they still left that whole plot line open with Vandal Savage having betrayed him and is kind of gunning for him. By the way, love everything with Vandal Savage this season. Everything with Vandal Savage this season.
I did enjoy that.
Oh my lord, what a magnificent character that we didn't get enough of. I need more.
There's Scott Snyder's run on Justice League right now.
I mean, I'll get there.
It's determinative about his direction. We'll call it that.
Mm-hmm.
They do very specific things with Vandal Savage in the current run.
I'm interested to get around to that.
But this run, also really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that actually was one of my favorite moments. I feel pretty sure you enjoyed this as well. One of the breakdowns in communication, one of the reasons they turn Tara is Batman read Deathstroke's micro expressions.
Oh, that was great.
And just the moment where Lex Luthor tells Deathstroke, he read your micro expressions. I didn't know he saw me without my mask. I reckoned you enjoyed that part.
I did actually, yeah.
That was pretty sweet.
I liked that everyone I liked that everyone was like, oh yeah, we knew she was betraying us the whole time. Yeah. That wasn't even a thing.
That actually was a really cool justification too, because as Artemis puts it, if we had told you, we would have taken the choice away from you. We were trying to give you as much leash as possible. Like that is a really cool background explanation for why they were doing what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's highlighted by Jefferson Pierce popping in and I think quoting Poe. I'm not sure. The tapping and all that.
Yeah.
I think that was I think that was Edgar Allan Poe, the Raven. But it still cracked me up to hear it. And I thought it was a really boss line to quote when you just interrupt someone's transmission and be like, yep, all right, so you're the bad guy. I'm behind the curtain now.
Yeah. It was funny because when I watched it, I had very randomly, just like a week before, had realized that Spotify has recordings of Vincent Price reading Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, that's gotta be sweet.
Yeah. And I was like, oh man, I'm doing that shit. And had kind of been on a Poe kick a little bit and was annoying my wife walking around reading The Raven out loud. And she was like, oh yes, please continue. I was doing it to bug her, to be clear, like, because I thought it was funny.
Yeah. The best thing she could have done is just yell at you, nevermore!
Yeah. Well, she was doing the thing where, like, I kept reading it, and she kept, like, interrupting me reading it by telling me other things.
All right.
And I'd be like, I had to go on to the next part.
Next stanza, please.
And finally she was like, oh, yes, please, continue. Continue reading Edgar Allan Poe.
The best thing to do at that point is to cheerily say, like, thank you, and just continue. It's infuriating.
Yeah, so.
It's the worst. And it's the best.
Well, I laughed really hard, and I was like, actually, have you ever seen the Simpsons version? And that's what wound up taking up the next few minutes is Homer in The Raven, that Halloween special.
Yeah. Bart
as the Raven.
Goddamn.
Nevermore. Why you little?
Just fucking clever.
Oh, Lenore.
So good.
Anyway, yep. So it was kind of a progression of Edgar Allan Poe things that happened, and then it wound up being on Young Justice too, and it was like, what is happening? Nice.
Yep.
Anyway.
The king of onomatopoeia, just here to fuck with you.
The Telltale Poe. All right, I'm gonna wrap this thing up. I think that's it. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
All right,
although it will crack me up if they bring in onomatopoeia. It's a DC character.
I'm down for it. You know,
why not?
That's something I would really like to see. What is Ollie's response to all of these damn Roy clones?
That's a fair point.
Plus, I just want Alan Tudyk back.
I do want Alan Tudyk back, and Green Arrow is a part of the show, but we didn't get to see his response, and that's fair.
And I wanted more. I wanted more of those
like
of all the Harper boys.
Like I to end cap the episode, possibly, I feel like a lot of your disappointment is because they set up really good things in the course of this series, and there's just not enough time in the show. And they keep setting up really good things.
And I hate that we're not wrapped up on Zatanna and Zatara. Dude, that is such a heartbreaking story.
Oh, that's rough. That is
Oh,
really
my gosh.
Their story is heartbreaking in general. Like, you should see what's going on right now with Justice League Dark. It's super dark.
Yeah.
It's bad. And spoiler, Zatara doesn't make it. Because, not spoiler, Zatara never makes it. It's just a matter of how the ingredients get cooked. But the dish is always the same.
Delicious, but leaves you a little gassy.
In this case, very specifically so.
All right, guys. Or you. Sorry. Group speak. Can't do that. Dave Jackson of the School of Podcasting would be very upset with me.
Hello, you. Also, goodbye, you. See you lot next time.
That's it. We'll have a news episode coming soon where we talk about the freaking killer James Gunn cast listing for the Suicide Squad.
Damn, that thing's good. Oh,
and the logo looks like the old Ostrander logo.
Oh, it's gonna be sweet.
I keep seeing Snyder people. I said it on Twitter, and I'll say it here. Snyder people, which I love. I like Snyder. All right. I like a lot of his movies, or all of his movies, to be fair.
No, our continuing presence on that is we loved what we got to see. We wish we'd seen more, but it's over, and goddamn it, man.
And the Snyder hardcores keep saying the new Suicide Squad logo, the cast, it looks like a Marvel movie. You know what doesn't look like a Marvel movie? That logo, because that logo comes from the Ostrander run.
OG Suicide Squad.
That is the comics logo.
Yeah.
Also, all the whole cast and everything.
The whole fucking cast.
You know what doesn't look like Marvel? Don't get attached. That's what Gunn said when he released that. Don't get attached. If they kill off half the cast, that ain't Marvel, y'all.
Yeah, I think half of those people are gonna go.
I'm excited, though. It looks great. And we'll be talking about the new Watchmen trailer. If you enjoyed the episode, do us a favor, tell your friends, and go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a good rating and review. And listen to every episode for free at DCOnScreen.com. Until next time, keep some DC on your screen. Our intro music is by Jason Goss and Michael Shackelford. Michael's band, Galactic Engineers of Magnetic Sounds, or GEMS, can be found on SoundCloud and Bandcamp. Visit DCOnScreen.com to find our Patreon, merch, contact information, and every episode of the show for free, including crossovers we've done with other podcasts. DC On Screen is a maladjusted production. For more from me and Jason, including sketch comedy, vlogs, parodies, and our improvised web series Hey Guy, visit maladjusted.tv.